Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. It is Tuesday, September 26th. You can just about kiss September goodbye. Except don't kiss it goodbye until you come watch our live show this coming Thursday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. We'll have a live band performance right here in this location on this coming Thursday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. And we'll be joined by Miss Smiley Face. Her name is Gina Huizinga. She smiles all the time, and she plays the fiddle and does a nice job. She occasionally sings. I don't know what she'll have in store for us on Thursday, but we'll figure it out as we go along. You know, I just thought I'd mention that we don't rehearse the shows. We just play them, and whatever comes out comes out, and they so far have come out pretty okay, I think. So I'm pretty happy with it. We are playing at Dickey's Barbecue Pit this evening in Rolla, Missouri. We start picking there around 6 o'clock in the evening and go to about 8:30. So join us if you can. It's real good food, and I think you'll enjoy the music. Let's see, we have another live show coming up on Saturday, and I guess that's this coming Saturday. Gosh, I can't believe it's this coming Saturday already at the Lyric Live Theater down in Newburgh, Missouri, and that's 7 o'clock p.m. So we'll see you there too, I hope, or at least I hope we do. It's usually, sparsely attended, to be truthful, but, it's tough to get people away from their computers these days and away from the internet and away from their video games and all that kind of good stuff. But if you can, break away, come on out and see the show. We'd love to have you. And then finally, we'll be in Mountain View, Arkansas, October 19th through the 22nd. If you'd like to come down there and just join in on the jamming fun, just send me a email, rosastringworks@gmail.com, and I'll return a message to you with my text number where you can get a hold of us when we're down there. Today, my shirt says, "I'm here because you broke it." And like I said, that's pretty much my theme around here. Pretty much could wear this shirt every day. I fixed, well, for sure 2 things while I was out there in Ohio, and maybe more. I just maybe not thinking about the rest of them, but I fixed a fertilizer spreader while I was out there so they could fertilize their lawn, and I fixed the brakes on a electric motorbike or mini bike for one of the boys. The brakes weren't working, so fixed 2 things while I was out there. Pretty much can't get away from fixing stuff. That's anywhere I go, that's what I do. And let's see. The Ohio trip went really well. The boys did well in their football games. I think both of them lost their games, but not by a great margin or anything. And the boys themselves did good, and we had fun watching them. And poor Trini and his team had to play the very best team in the league this past weekend. So, in fact, that team went to the Super Bowl of these leagues last year. So, they didn't stand too much of a chance. But anyway, they did all right. Let's see. The new house was real nice out there, and her neighborhood is, it's crazy. It reminds me of the neighborhood I grew up in. I told you before that we grew up in this little farmhouse, and we were surrounded by just filthy rich people. I mean, they had maids and butlers and, 8-car garages and indoor-outdoor swimming pools. And I grew up right in the middle of all that. And we didn't have I won't even say what we didn't have, but we didn't have much. We had horses, and that was the draw for those rich kids. They came over and rode our horses, and then I went over and had their maid fix me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. And that's the truth. That is the truth. I'm not exaggerating on that. Got a couple of new things to show you this morning, a couple of new products. First, you know me, I don't care anything about fashion. I don't care anything about fads or what's in or the in thing or any of that stuff. I could just flat care less. So when I show you what I'm about to show you, it's got nothing to do with any of that, in case it has anything to do with any of that, because I don't even know. But anyway, here they are. These are what you call Hoka is the brand. And I never heard of it before. But I was out there and I said, I got to get a new pair of tennis shoes. This pair that I'm wearing really doesn't do well on my feet. They hurt. The pair I was wearing has this real hard rubber thing up through here, and I have a spot on the edge of my foot that's, I guess you'd call it an outgrowth or whatever, and it really hurts. So I said, I got to get a different pair. Well, my son-in-law, he's really into shoes. And he says, everybody's talking about the Hokas. You need to get a pair of Hokas. And I said, well, I don't know. We'll look at them. I didn't care. I could care less about the brand name. You just don't care. All I care is that they fit, they feel good, and they don't hurt. So we went to, I think, Dick's Sporting Goods. And I tell these people, I said, look, I don't care what it looks like. I just want it to not hurt, And they said, well, these Hokas are the most comfortable. Everybody says these are the most comfortable shoes there are. And I said, well, all right, let me try them on. Well, I tried on this pair. This was the only pair I tried on, and I bought them. That's how I shop. I walked around in these for just a second. I mean, like for 10 seconds. And I went, yep, I'll buy them. They're good. Truly, I've worn them now quite a bit over the weekend, and they are the most comfortable shoes I've ever put on my feet. These are Hoka, and I don't know if there's any kind of a brand thing in these. I think these say Clifton 9, might be the style or whatever. Not that that matters, because I could care less about style, but Clifton 9, and these don't look all that great. These don't look fancy. My wife says they look ugly, she didn't like the looks of them at all. I told you, I don't care about look. These seriously are, I can't even explain how nice these are to walk in. They're really good. So if you're interested, if you got sore feet and you're looking for some really comfortable soles, these Hokas have the really comfortable. Now, they don't give them away. They're really expensive. I paid like $155 for them, which is the most I've ever paid for a pair of shoes of that type. I think I paid $200 and something for a pair of my Red Wing work boots, but they were worth it also. They are the most comfortable work boots I've ever owned. And these Hokas are the most comfortable tennis shoes I've ever owned. Walking shoes, whatever you want to call them. And it's by a wide margin, I will say, too. So they're definitely worth the money. Then we had a company send me these. I got two of them. One of them still in the box, hasn't been opened. And you might say, what is that? Well, I'll tell you what that is. It is an AC electric detector. It detects voltage, and I will be doing a short video on this down the road and show you some ways you can use it. I just thought I'd show you quickly this morning, what it is, and they sent them to me to do a video review, so I didn't have to pay for them, but they're real inexpensive. They're only about $10 a piece or less, at least at the time of this video. And so you hold this button to turn it on, and it turns on, and then it detects AC voltage. And I have other ones too, and I'll show you those here in a minute too. But like, just as an example, this cord is plugged in over there, and if you put this into the low side, the ground side, it detects something, but it says like 14%, and it's not going crazy. So that's the low side. That's the common, or the return line, the white line. That's the common. And so it's got a little bit of voltage, but very little. It's detecting something, but not enough to really probably hurt you or anything on that line. But on the black line, if you turn it in here, you can see there, and if I got it upside down, I've got it upside down for you. It's got 99% there. So it's telling you that line there is going to knock your socks off. so it's kind of good for that. And for the price, and for people that don't know how to read a meter or something, this might be the way to go. Like if you're just trying to find out, did I get that right breaker turned off? You could test your outlet and know for sure your breaker's off. Let me just show you another feature of it here. I'll turn it back on. It does have a flashlight, which is kind of handy. So I do have one of these in my electrical toolkit already, not this specific brand. In fact, this is the one I have. This one seems to lie quite a bit, I'll be honest with you. It seems to kind of pick up voltage sometimes where there really isn't anything to care about. What I like about this, see, this one just has a light and it buzzes. That's all this one does. This one has a percentage, so at least you have some idea what we're talking about. If it's 10%, 5%, you probably know that's not much there. That wire's probably safe. You get it up around 75 to 80% or somewhere in there, or maybe above 50%, and I don't really know that. In fact, they don't really tell you. That's one of the shortcomings of this. They don't really tell you how to use the percentages in the instructions. But at least you kind of have a feel for it. You know, if you see something down in the 10% range, you probably don't have to worry too much. But if you see something in the 99% range, you know it's going to knock you down. Where this one just buzzes and flashes on everything, and you still don't really know is that wire safe or not. You know, so at least this one has that much over this one, and so this one will probably take its place in my electrical kit from now on, because this is a quick way to test. Now, my normal way to test is with a meter, and so if I'm in doubt at all, like in other words, if the one that I've been using, if this yellow one would flash and buzz, well, then I'll pull out the meter and test it for sure and know what I'm dealing with. And this one's much more sophisticated. This is DC, AC. You know, you can test resistance, you can test diodes, you can test continuity, all kinds of things with this that you can't test with that. But your average homeowner probably does not know how to use this particular meter. So that's why I'm saying these are pretty cool. They're not bad. And I will put out a video in the near future with a discount code and also a link to Amazon and everything. So watch for that coming down the road. Moving on, let's see, what else have we got here? Well, I told you about the shoes already. I told you about everything else. So I guess we're ready to talk about the little fish video I made yesterday. When we got back yesterday afternoon, I thought, well, I'll just feed the fish and see what's up with them. So here's about 7 minutes of relaxation. Here you go. We just got back from Ohio around 11 a.m. this morning. It's almost 4 o'clock. So I thought I'd feed the fish. But first I'm going to show you how the grass is growing. You can see it's growing pretty well on top of the dam there. Starting to look like a grassy place. I don't know how the fish are going to take to the food today, but we'll see. And I'll start throwing it out. See if they make any quick motions for it. I see a whole school of fish right down here below me. There's several small. There's one, the first one to hit right out there. There's one. So they're starting to hit now. I'll throw out one more handful and I'll move down this way and spread it around. I see a lot of fish along the bank. Wow. Seeing quite a few fish. I'm going to give about half to these fish that I've got here in the can, and we'll give half to the other fish back there in the back pond. I see some rather large bluegill swimming around. I don't know if you can see them in the camera or not, but there's a couple of good-sized bluegill right out there. They're not going crazy over it. Oh, they're starting to hit it over here now a little bit. They're not hitting it hard. They're hitting it better over here right now. Give them another handful, And then we'll give the rest to the fish in the back. The fish in the back seem to respond to it much better. But these guys are doing a good job. There's a pretty big bluegill right there if you can see him coming up, swimming around there. He's going to come up maybe and get one. Let's see if he does. Oh, he went down. Don't see him. Here comes another one. Yeah, they're not participating like they should. Over here they're eating it pretty good. There was a good one. Yeah, there's a bunch of them there. There's a whole school of little ones there. Can you see the shadow of those swimming around over there? I think you can. All right, we're going to go to the back pond. The water is so crystal clear. See the fish? They're already anticipating me throwing out food. Now that's a little tiny bass that was in here last year. Those were just the size of your finger. Look how big that bass is. It's amazing. That's about, I don't know, a 3/4 pound bass maybe. Oh, there's a bigger one down below, but that's a catfish. Man, that catfish is good size. That catfish was even bigger. So, man, these fish are really growing now that we're feeding them. So, without further ado, I think they're really anticipating the feeding thing here. So, let's throw a little bit out here and see if that's true. Yeah, look at that. It's crazy, isn't it? Yes, they are anticipating. Man, look at them. They're just going crazy over it. It's so cool that you can see them so clearly. I think you can see them on camera. I hope you can. It's like piranhas almost. Yeah. And those bass are really big. I'm so surprised how big they are because they were just the size of your finger when we put them in there last fall. Oh my gosh, look how big that carp is. Can you see that carp? That carp is, he's every bit of 18 inches long. He's huge. Are they going to come back, the carp? I can't believe how big they've grown. Let's go over here and throw some out in a different area. See if they respond. A little bit. Yeah, they're moving over. Try to get back where we can see them better because of the glare. Seems like this area or this angle is pretty good. They're really going crazy. And man, they are growing so fast. I cannot believe how fast these fish have grown. Oh, there with that big carp. He is big compared to how little they were when we put them in here. Those carp were maybe the size, length of your palm and fingers. They were a little longer than the other fish, but they weren't very big either. They are at least 3 times the size that we put them in here. At least 3 times that big. But I'd say the bass are too. Man, that's crazy. It's funny, the carp are kind of staying back a little bit this time. The water is really clear. I can see them very well. I wish I had polarized glasses. I could see them even better. And a polarized lens for you. There goes one of those big carp way out there. He looks like a shark. Yeah, those fish back there in the back, they really do respond much more than the fish up here in the front. And I don't know why that is. We've been feeding them about equal, and the ones up in the or out in the back really do take to it. They were really small last year. I mean, like those bass were the length of your finger. They were just fingerlings is what you would call them. And I thought, well, half of them will probably die, and looks like most of them lived. And yeah, we didn't see any dead fish along the banks after we put them in there either. We went around, quite a bit and watched for that over the next several days, and we never did see any. So I assume that most of them lived. And anyway, moving on, let's see. The gist of today's program was the vacuum system. Somebody wanted to see a deep dive on the grounding mechanism for my vacuum system. And if you don't know or aren't aware, sawdust and pretty much any dust, flour dust, just almost any kind of dust in the air is explosive. And it can burn down, it can burn down buildings because, a spark ignites it, and it's very dangerous. So it's important to ground your vacuum system. And that's not the main reason I ground it, though. The main reason I ground it is to keep from getting those static electric shocks constantly. And you will get them constantly if you don't ground your system. So anyway, mine's grounded, and here's a look at that. So here we go. We're outside the shop. Someone asked me to take a deep dive into my vacuum system, the way it's grounded. And in order to see how it's grounded, I think you need to see the whole system. So the actual vacuum is outside here. It's a little hard to get to because we just got junk piled everywhere. But I'll crawl back here. I'll sacrifice myself for you guys. Here's the actual unit. It looks like it's a 2 horsepower. Okay, so you can see this wire here is connected down with a screw to the frame, to the metal frame of the dust collector. This wire then goes around all the pipe in there, and we're going to go show you how it winds around all the pipe. Now, keep in mind, all my electric is grounded, so by grounding this to the frame, this ground goes through the electrical ground as part of it, and then I'll show you how it's also grounded on the inside as well. Okay, just on the other side of this wall is where the machine is that we were just looking at. And you can see the ground wire then comes and is wrapped around this pipe. And it's wrapped around the pipe going this way as well. So right here, this is a 6-inch fitting, and we've come down to 4-inch. And you want to keep it as big as you can for as long as you can. I really felt like running 6-inch through here would have been an overkill, so I just went down to 4-inch. I would not recommend going any smaller than 4-inch for a one-man shop. You can see the pipe goes along the floor. Maybe you can still see it, and there's still wire wrapped around it everywhere. And most of the time I actually have the wire coming up these feed pipes too. This one doesn't, but this one does. So typically I put the wire all the way, and you can see it goes all the way up here and all the way across the ceiling. And then there's a main trunk line that goes all the way into the office. We'll go in there and show you that. And you can see how the wire then comes down right here. And this is my central hub that feeds, the bandsaw, all my big tools. And then I have the wire grounded here to the metal box, which is also grounded all the way back to the copper ground rod, an 8-foot long ground rod driven into the ground. And so the ground is, I guess you'd say, contiguous all the way back. There's continuity all the way back to the ground. Now here on this little drop, I don't have a ground in that, but that's basically just to let the big chunks fall out that are going across. If there's big heavy chunks, they'll fall down and get caught in this clean out right here. All I have to do is take that cap off right there and clean it out if I need to. And I don't clean that out all that often. There's really not that much in it most of the time, just a few heavies. We'll go into the office and I'll show you my other end. This is the far end of the dust collection system.
Now here I actually did go down to a 3-inch up there. And actually, now that I look at it, this part isn't actually grounded. It doesn't seem to be a problem. Everything else is grounded, and I don't know, I guess I just didn't run it through the wall and come in here. But this conglomeration that you see was a way to get the hose up out of the way when I had my workbench right here. And when I first created this area, I had my workbench in here and did all my work right here at a bigger table right here. And so this lets the vacuum come down. So if I press the down button here, then the vacuum will come down. So we'll do that. You can see how it drops down. Now, quite honestly, this is a bit overkill for in here now, but it's still useful, so I just leave it. But honestly, we really don't need it to raise up and down anymore. The reason I had it go up and out of the way was to get it away from me when I was working on the instruments. I didn't want the hose laying all over the place. So I just left it, and I'll press it up to take it back up to the ceiling to get it out of the way. It's a handy little outfit that way.
Yeah, a lot of people are amused by my raising and lowering of the vacuum there, but it was really handy. It did serve a purpose at one time. It really doesn't serve any real purpose at this point, but I just left it because I didn't feel like redoing it, because redoing it would have been counterproductive on top of that, so I just left it. But yeah, there's a few things to know about putting in a dust system, and I'm not the end-all expert on this. I'm just tell you things that I've learned over the years, and that is, first of all, you do need your system grounded, of course, and that was the topic of this presentation. And a ground rod, if you don't know, is just like an 8-foot long, at least copper shielded rod. They have copper. Used to be they were solid copper. Nowadays they're copper on the outside and probably a steel core. But anyway, you drive that copper rod all the way in the ground. All 8 feet of it, you drive it full depth. And there's some tricks to driving that too. You can simply drive it with a hammer, with like a sledgehammer or a 3-pound hammer or whatever. But one of the tricks to help you get it to go in the ground is that you have somebody constantly pouring water right on the base of it as you're driving it. Believe it or not, it makes a big difference. That's one thing you can do to help get a ground rod to go in the ground. The other thing is that you can use like a hammer drill, and you set it on the hammer setting. You don't want it spinning, you just want it hammering, and you can put your hammer drill on it, and it'll drive them in the ground pretty easily most of the time. So those are a couple of tips on driving a ground rod. Then, of course, you need your copper wire coming out and connecting to the ground rod, and that ground should be grounded back to your electrical panel, your 220 panel or whatever your panel is. And you want that grounded really well too. Now that generally should be a very large copper wire that comes out. I don't remember the size, but I'm going to say like a number 9, like a number 9 size wire, something like that. Pretty heavy, hefty wire. Anyway, and then of course, then your all my outlets, I used metal outlets and metal conduit type stuff, and you can then ground right to your outlet also on your dust collection system, and because everything is it's just one continuous loop right back to the ground rod that's driven in the ground. Now, if you don't want to drive a ground rod, you can, if you've got copper pipes, copper water pipes, you can ground, your dust collection system. You could easily ground that to your copper water pipes if they go into the ground, of course, and it'd be no problem. You could ground to that. But you do want a good ground. You don't want to skimp on that. And it really has made a huge difference for me. I knew I should have grounded it when I had it up at the other shop where the rental retreat is now, but I never grounded it up there. I always said, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And always, I was just constantly getting shocked, just constantly. Anytime you would vacuum. So the way I avoided getting shocked was I would keep my hand on like like the table saw table. I would keep it on that metal table and vacuum, and then I wouldn't get shocked. But if I didn't keep my hand on the table and reach over and touch the table while I was vacuuming, it would shock the fire out of you. I mean, seriously, it's a huge static electric shock. Probably the worst you'll ever get. So you do want to ground your vacuum system if you put one in. I have shown this before. I do have plans on my website on the shopping page, and these are the dust vents that I created, or dust gates. And I'm seriously telling you, these are head and shoulders over over the plastic ones for sure that you can buy. There's not even a comparison between these and the plastic ones. Now, I don't know about the aluminum ones. The aluminum ones are only about $14-15 a piece. So if you don't want to build your own like this, you could spend $14 or $15 per point. Now, if you're going to put in 10 or more points, then it starts to add up, where you can make a bunch of these for probably around $25. And these do not leak any air at all. I mean, they are completely silent, which is the problem with the plastic ones that you buy. When you buy the plastic ones for like $7 or $8 a piece, you're constantly hearing at every location. And every time you hear that, you're losing vacuum. And trust me, every little bit counts when it comes to a vacuum system. So you don't want to be losing vacuum. This does not lose any vacuum at all. When I shut the last gate, you hear silence. You can't hear anything. And then you open it, and it's roaring through that one spot. So these are really good. I think my plans sell for $10 for the plans for these, and it shows you in detail how to make them. These plastic pieces, in fact, I had a bunch of those cheap plastic gates. That's what I started out with, and I broke them apart and then just used silicone caulk to glue them on here. And on this other side, because I'm using a PVC system, I just cut, a piece of the PVC coupler off and also silicone that there. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful, but not real careful. These are very durable. They've been, I've had it this way for several years now, and I really haven't had any problems. I've had 1 or 2 failures over the years where, like, I was moving a piece of equipment and the hose was still attached and it pulled it off, something like that. But otherwise, I really haven't had any failures. They work really good. Well, that's about it, I guess. There's a couple of more tips on the system. When you're putting in a system, bigger is definitely better. Every time you double the diameter of a pipe, you quadruple the flow. So like a 2-inch pipe gets, when you go from a 2-inch pipe up to a 4-inch pipe, you have just quadrupled your amount of airflow and the amount of water going through it or air going through it. Whatever's going through it, you've quadrupled it. So every time you double it, you quadruple. And so, like if you were going to go from a 4-inch to a 6-inch, you'd be a lot better off. You wouldn't quadruple in that case because you didn't double it, but you would, increase it by half, by more than half. Or you'd increase it by 2 times, I guess you'd say, instead of quadruple. So anyway, it would, it's worth doing. It's worth keeping them big. So keep your pipes as big as you can, as long as you can, and you'll be way better off on your vacuum. The other thing and the final thing is that don't use any 90s if you can avoid it. In other words, always use 45s because water or air or anything moves much better through a 45 than it does through a 90. 90s, make them turn a corner. So and that loses momentum and all that, and it creates drag, where the 45 barely does anything. I mean, the 45 is just cuts at a slight angle, and it just keeps going. So the 45 is way more efficient. So use 45s every time you can. And like I don't know if you really noticed, but when I was showing how I went up over and across, every one of those were 45s. In other words, instead of just going up and 90 and across, I went up so far and cut 45 up to the ceiling and then went across. Now, 45s are way the way to go. You definitely don't want to use 90s any more than you have to. You will always probably have to have a 90 somewhere, but But for the most part, avoid the 90s every time you can avoid a 90. I guess that's it. Let's go through the comments and see what we got here. Thomas Armstrong says, "Good morning, Jerry. Hope you had a good trip." And we did. At what moment does a violin magically transform into a fiddle? And I imagine you're being a little bit funny with that, or just, silly with that. I don't think you're an absolute serious question, but you might be. And whether you are or you aren't, there is an actual, I think, serious answer to it. And it's at the moment that a good old-time fiddler picks up that violin. It becomes a wonderful fiddle. And you'll see that a little bit this coming Thursday. Gina is a pretty good fiddler. She's also a classical violinist too, so she can play either style. But of course, with us, she's playing the old-time country and bluegrass. So Gina is one of those people that can read music and all that technical stuff, which I don't know anything about that. Dottie Hildebrand says, "Good morning, Jerry. Hope you had a wonderful trip." Thank you. Milan Toombs says, "Good job, Tim. Like parallel parking." Okay. I'm not sure what that was about. Ken Solo, "Good morning, everyone." Lee Duffield, now that these are the live comments. The first ones were before we went live. So Lee Duffield is live. It says, "Hello from Toronto." Well, hello. Charlie Rostern from Sheffield, UK. Good morning to you. Or, well, it's probably not morning there. Good afternoon to you. Christia Thomason, "Good morning from the overcast North Carolina." And I'll read one or two more here. ND Rough Rider, "Good morning from Horace, ND. ND. Why am I drawing a blank on that? North Dakota. I'm drawing a blank. Bruce Hines, "Good morning, Jerry. Hope your trip was great. Glad you're home." Thank you. And then Michael Buss from Germany. Hope you're all well. Yolanda's music is on there. I saw couple of her videos she's been putting out. And I haven't talked to Yolanda too much about coming back this Thursday, but she's welcome if she wants to, and she's watching this. So, Yolanda, if you'd like to come back Thursday, you can, and do a couple more tunes. Kathy Volts, "Good morning, Jerry, from Southeast Florida." All right, now I'm going to start looking for the question marks. Bill Mumbo, "Jerry, need a bulb changing. Could you pop over to London and fix it? Old band. You've only got 3 gigs this week." Yeah, Bill, I'll hop on that next little flight. Actually, I wish I had one of those gyrocopters. Of course, I don't think it'd make it over the ocean, but I would like to have one of those gyrocopters. I'd like to fly, out to Ohio and see the boys. I would like to have one of those gyrocopters. I think they're really cool. And if it wasn't for my, very devout religion, I would have one because, I'm basically a devout coward. So that's the only reason I don't have a gyrocopter. The Spoken Song says, "Bruce in Ohio, welcome back. Would it be possible to get a basic rundown sometime of your equipment you use for your daily broadcasts?" Okay, I can. It's not real impressive. I have a Logi 1080p camera, LOGI 1080p camera. It's an HD 1080p. It's a real common camera out there. I think seems like there's a 930 or something like that, or a 920 number that goes along with that camera, also like the model number. But you can look those up. They're real common. It's a streaming camera. And it's a pretty good camera. I'm happy with it overall. It leaves a few shortcomings, like it's not too quick to auto refocus sometimes, as you've seen. The microphone here is a Blue Yeti type microphone. It is a USB microphone. You can use other kinds of regular microphones, but it's just more complication. I like simple. This just simply plugs into a USB port and you're done. You don't have to have any more converters or any other special cards or anything else. This just works. And so it's good enough. It works. I like simple. If it's simple, you'll see me doing it. If it's complicated, you'll see me going a different direction. And then really that's 99% of it right there, those two things. And then the software I'm using is called Streamlabs Desktop. And the version on it's a 1.14.0. But it's Streamlabs Desktop, and overall it's very good. There's another one just called OBS, which is very good too, and I think it was the first one out there. But this Streamlabs Desktop, I don't know. It's a good one, and I'm not saying it's any better than the OBS, and I'm not saying OBS is better than this one. I think they're pretty much equal, really. They're very similar. In fact, it's kind of hard to tell the difference which one you're using, and I have used both. So they're very similar. But those are the two main ones for streaming, is Streamlabs Desktop or OBS. And some people call this, or it used to be called, I think, Streamlabs OBS. But now they're trying to differentiate themselves a little bit, I think, and they're calling it Streamlabs Desktop now. I don't know. I don't know all the details behind that. Let's see, what else? And then I just have some lights. I'll show you a light here, if I can get it over here where I can show you. I'll try this one. I think I can get this one over here. Well, maybe not. Yeah, kind of complicated. Okay, I'll show it this way first. These are just USB LED lights also, and these are panels, and that helps get enough light on the band or on me or whatever. So you do need pretty good lighting also. That's another thing you kind of need that you kind of overlook for the most part, but you do need it. Let me set that back up here. I think it's good enough. And I see, what else do I have that's specific about this? I think that's about it. Well, you got to have a pretty skookum computer. You really do. And of course, you have to have a pretty darn good internet service. I think you can get by with 20 megabyte upload, or you can probably get by with a little less than that, because I did for a long time. But I would say if you really want to do a good, upload, you probably want at least 20 megabyte upload speed on your internet. This is much faster than that. This is, hundreds of megabytes upload now, which is really wonderful to have. And we've got fiber optic internet service from our electric company. And, and I've told the story already, and some of you heard me say it originally, and that was, somebody says, why don't you get fiber optic? And I said, there is not a chance ever that we will ever get fiber optic out here. We're in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody going to bring a cable. I was only thinking of the cable companies bringing fiber optic, because that's typically the ones that do that. Maybe the phone company, but I know they're not going to bring it out here because we're 3 miles down this road. So I just said there's no way that we'll ever get fiber optic. The very next day, I heard that Gasco Sage Electric Company announced they were bringing fiber optic service to all their customers. Well, we're only a very short distance off of their main trunk line that goes over to Newburgh. So I thought, we're in like Flint now, because we're not very far from that, and they'll bring that this far, And sure enough, they did. I was one of their first customers to get it, by no means the first, but one of their early adopters for sure. And I tried to get it. I tried to be the first one. I was on them for the last 6 or 8 months trying to get it, and finally we got it. But anyway, you do need a good internet service. That's probably the most key thing. And then, of course, your computer needs to be pretty robust also, because there's a ton of processing to process everything live and send it up the line, So you do need a pretty stout computer to do it also. And I do have that, and a video card. The video cards, ever since COVID, that has just man, that's just another one of those things where everybody is just stuffing money in their pockets, is those video cards. To buy really your top-end video cards now, you'll spend over $2,000. It's crazy. I just bought another high-end video card. It's not near that high-end, but it's a high-end video card, and I paid $500 for it. So I just upgraded it just the other day, and you really need that, especially when you're trying to edit high resolution videos when you're editing. Like when I went to that GoPro camera, that was another thing that aggravated me, was that the resolution was higher and the computer could barely handle it. It was just stalling out all the time. Quite honestly, I haven't tried it since I put the new video card in to edit a GoPro video, but I need to do that and see how it's working. Moving on here. Beat that to death. Let's see. Looking for question marks, moving down through. Flat broke Frank. You must be my long lost brother. Flat broke Frank. Jerry, have you ever wondered how you found time to do work since you retired? Oh my gosh, yeah. It's impossible to explain how I got projects. I mean, I got projects on top of projects on top of projects, and on top of that, I'm married to Sue. Yeah, you guys got no idea. There is not a chance on this green earth that I will ever get caught up. Not ever. Not ever, not ever, not ever. I've got projects planned already so far down the road that I didn't even bother telling you about them, because it would just, it would whet your appetite, and then everybody's be going, when are you going to get to that? When are you going to, kind of like this water wheel thing. Yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a break on that, but I'm going to get back on it really soon. I'm really wanting to knock the dump truck out, finish that. In fact, I may try to make some progress on that today. I need to get some steel. I want to reinforce that bed a lot. So I'm going to have to go somewhere today and get some steel that I can reinforce the bed on the dump truck. I don't think I'm too far from getting the dump truck finished, but before I put the bed back on it, I want to really reinforce that frame and make it where it cannot possibly break or bend. At least not with the kind of load I could put on it. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now with that. And then as soon as I get that done, then I'm back on the water wheel project, I think. The other thing I'm dragging my feet on the water wheel project is trying to make up my mind on the foundation. I'm trying to make up my mind how far I need to go. Do I really need footings? Can I just pour a slab on top of the ground? I would prefer just to pour a slab on the top of the ground and just call it good enough. And I kind of think I can get away with that, but I haven't really been able to get a hold of my concrete guys to ask them what they think. And so anyway, I'm just kind of dragging my feet on that from that aspect. Moving on, Bill Mumbo says, Jerry, don't mention to Sue that you don't go for looks. Not wise. Yeah, I said fashion now. I don't care what fashion looks like. It just doesn't matter to me at all. Zero, none, not any. Don't care about it even that much. Like I said, earthworms are way more important to me than fashion. Just have no care about it at all. Zero. Christia Thomason, subscriber count is 97.9, getting closer to, I actually had that as one of my notes and I forgot to mention it. 97,964 before I started the vlog this morning. So we're getting close. We'll hit that 98. I'm still hoping JR don't beat me. If he beats me, I'll never hear the end of it. Even though I told him he would beat me to 100,000 when he started his channel. I said, there's no doubt you'll beat me. But we had a little growth spurt there and we got closer. So, there's still a chance we might beat him. I think we will. We're growing really slow, but we're growing. Let's see. Are there any other questions here or comments? Mark Nadsum has one here, but he didn't put any question marks on it. So I just remind everybody again, if you would, put 2 or 3 question marks at the beginning of your question. That way I can spot them easier, because I'm really a slow reader. But it says, good morning, Jerry from Vida. That's Vida, Missouri, I guess, huh? Are those carp the ones that only eat algae and don't spawn? Yes, that's true. They're just what they call grass carp. They'll eat algae and they actually eat grass and everything. I mean, the big ones in the front pond, I've seen them more than once. If I ever see it again, I'm going to try to get a video of it. But these fish, these big ones up here in the front, they're like 4 feet long. I mean, they're huge. And they will get about a third of their body out of the water, and they'll be laying on their side eating the grass. You can actually see them doing it. It's pretty cool. Of course, if you come up there and they see you, they'll flop back in the water. But there's actually at one time, and I haven't seen this lately either, but at one time when we left the pond alone for a long time, you could see a browse line around the pond where those carp had actually chewed off everything that they could reach around the pond. It is crazy. I never would have dreamed a fish would do that, but they did. Let's see. William Pagan's got a long one here, it looks like. I'm not sure what it says. If and when the crime-ridden war zone, that is Chicago, don't go out after dark. Yeah, no kidding. William Pagan there later, and the next comment says, Yolanda, keep smiling, keep singing. Yeah, she has yet to smile. We have to talk to her about that smiling thing. Yolanda, just smile. That's all you got to do. It won't hardly hurt. It really won't. And I'm a good one to talk, because when we're playing, we're really serious, and it's really hard to just smile. I mean, it really is. You're doing so many things when you're playing music. A lot of people don't realize that, but especially me, because I'm not only are we playing as a band, so you got to be together, and you got to remember the words, you got to remember the sign, you got to remember the chord changes, and there's strumming in time and all that stuff. But I also have to remember that I'm running the show and have to click the right buttons at the right times, and trying to read comments, and yeah. So I have an excuse if I screw up. That's just my excuse right there. Anyway, Spike Moto, would your sliding dust gate work or fit on a 6-inch metal vent pipe? Well, it would work on, approximately a 4-inch. That's what these are. Now, you can scale this up to any size you want to. But if you use metal piping, then you probably don't need to worry so much about the grounding. Although I still probably would run a short little wire from the end of the pipe over to an outlet to ground it or something, to the box. Not, you don't ground it to the wires themselves, but you would ground it to your grounded box or grounded outlet. So even with a metal system, I'd probably at least do that, just add an extra little pigtail wire, but you wouldn't need to wrap the wire around it, because it's, and as long as then you take that pipe and run it to ground, you're good to go. So actually the metal pipe would be the better way to go if you can go that way, but it is expensive, and it's a little harder to work with and all that. So But metal would be real good. It'd be a real good system. Spike Moto, okay, yeah, that's the one I just read. Let's see, Rooster Run, looks like the last one here. Rooster Run Workshop. Should you level frets with a back bow in the neck, or should it be flat? Well, I get flack for saying some of these things because people just don't agree. They don't understand the concept. Your frets have to be level relative to each other. They don't necessarily have to be perfectly level from that end to this end. In other words, that fret doesn't have to be the same height as this fret, but they have to be level relative to each other as you move across the fretboard. So if you don't have a big back bow, you probably don't have to take it out. But if it's a big back bow, yeah, you would. If you see a pretty good hump there, you don't want that. You want it relatively flat, but you don't have to have it perfectly flat. So, and that's where the contention comes in with the folks that will argue with me. They will say you have to have it perfectly flat from one end to the other. Well, fine. If you want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're asking for a lot more work to do it that way. And you don't have to do it that way, but you just have to have them flat relative to the frets around them. And as long as they're flat relative to the frets around them, you won't have any buzzes, because when you press the string down, they're flat relative to the closeness there. Now, if you had real super stupid high fret way back there, yeah, you'd probably still get a buzz, but we're not talking about those kinds of stupid exceptions. We're just talking about using good common sense, and as long as it's flat relative to each other all the way down the fretboard, you're good to go. Okay, I think that's it. No, it looks like maybe we have another one here, a couple more. Russell Allen says, increasing the diameter of the dust collection ductwork may increase airflow, but it also reduces air velocity. You need at least 3,000 feet per minute to get effective material transfer. Well, yeah, Russell, I'm not saying you should go bigger than your dust collector can handle, but like my dust collector has a 6-inch port. So if I could stay 6 inches, I'd be way better off. It's designed for a 6-inch system. And so, you don't want to put a 12-inch system on a 6-inch system. That wouldn't be smart. But it does increase your flow, and it cuts down on the well, I don't want to use the word static so much, but I want to use Isaac Newton, friction. Yeah. It cuts down on the friction if you can leave it bigger. I learned that lesson the hard way on water. I was going to, you know where the spring is, where I'm going to do the water wheel. I ran a gravity feed pipe from there all the way over to our chicken house. And I didn't think it would matter. I didn't know the physics of it at the time. I started off with a 4-inch pipe and then reduced it down to 2-inch. Well, that was a big mistake. I should have left it 4-inch all the way till the last minute and then brought it up to, and it would have been a much better gravity feed system. Matter of fact, Leon's brother, Cal, was an engineer, and Cal explained the physics to me on that. And I've learned ever since then, you keep your pipes as large as possible to the last minute. And that is much more efficient. But your point is well taken also. I mean, you would not want to go bigger than your system should try to handle. It would be stupid for me to put a 12-inch duct system in here on my 6-inch dust collector. That would not be smart. So it is a good point. It's one that I didn't think to mention, but you definitely don't want to make it bigger than what your system can handle. Let's see. Paul Akers. On a bolt-on guitar neck electric, do you put a wedge shim the entire neck pocket, or half or quarter, etc.? Thanks. Well, Paul, that would really depend on the circumstances, and you could see me do any of those things. It really would depend on the circumstances. For instance, I've shimmed them where they had a twist, not a twist, but the neck wasn't going straight down the body. It was like off to the side, so I'll shim it on that one side to bring it over, or I'll shim it on the bottom to bring it up, or I'll shim it on the top to bring it down. So yeah, you can put the shim anywhere. It really just depends on the circumstances. The better you can make your shims fit and all that stuff, where you don't have a lot of air gaps, the better you are. So in other words, like, say you needed a fairly thick shim, for instance, as an example, it would be better if you could run that thick shim down to where it's paper thin, and fill your void. You're better off to fill your void as much as possible. So I'll just say that. but you can put the shim anywhere the shim needs to go, and it can be pretty much any size it needs to be, but you're better off filling all the void that you can fill. So, I don't know. That's the best way I can explain that. Yolanda's Music says, LOL, I'm trying. Music is important for me, so when it's important, I'm serious chicken. I'm a serious chicken. Yeah. Well, I mean, I get that. Like I said, I'm doing all those things. I've got all these things on my mind, and then I have to remember I have to smile too. So every once in a while, you'll see me look up and smile, but I can't keep a smile on my face when I'm doing this. It's just too difficult. But Yolanda, you don't have to keep a smile the whole time you're singing, but you should, smile occasionally, like at the beginning and at the end, and if you can draw a breath and smile, that's fine too. It's just any of those things is good. I guess that's about it. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I was looking for the question marks primarily. That's going to be it for today, guys. It's already 9 o'clock. I cannot believe how fast time flies when I'm having fun here. I enjoy talking to you guys every day. 126 viewers at the moment. We will, whoops, Smike Moto threw one in at the last second. I am thinking about your sliding dust gate. I know my way around making and fixing things. What materials and skill levels are you needed to make one? It's not real difficult to make. I mean, if I was, your ideal setting would be you'd have a table saw, and your ideal setting is you'd have a large hole saw that you could saw out the hole. You can saw it with a jigsaw or saber saw or something like that. You don't have to have any specialty tools to make it, but it's just very simple woodworking, really, and it's just layers of plywood. Now, this is what I did was I went to like the box store and bought the like a 1/4 inch thick type plywood, and I bought the smoothest plywood I could find, and I think this was floor underlayment. And I tried to find the most economical and the smoothest and all that. So you want smooth. You don't want the kind of plywood that's real rough and ridges, got holes all through it and stuff. You want to try to get your better plywood, but yet you want to try to save your money. So I think I used like floor underlayment. Seemed to be the cheapest thing I could find. And then you just make it out of that, and it's just little strips of plywood like this little thing right in here. There's 2 big sheets of plywood, and then there's a little thin strip of plywood along the edge here, see? So that's all it is. And then I just glued little thin slips on here to keep it contained. Now, that's one thing about the aluminum ones. They have like a little, like a little bump to keep it contained. And theirs is fine too. What's good about this one is that, and the aluminum ones that I saw look like they're the same, is that this throws all your dust out the hole. See, like when you're like this, it's fine. And then when you slide this through, if there's any dust in there, it gets pushed out right here. So these are self-cleaning also. That's a huge thing. The plastic ones are not self-cleaning, and they will clog up over time and get worse and worse. And then eventually they got a hole that big, through there, and they don't work as well. They don't shut off. So these always shut off. That's the cool thing about these, and they're cheap and not really hard to make. And if you're a woodworker, you like to make stuff anyway. You like to make woodworking projects. So there you go. What's the status of the water wheel? Well, I kind of covered that. I'm dragging my feet a little bit. I'm trying to decide what kind of foundation I want to build, and I do want to get back on that. But I want to finish the dump truck first. I want to just get that out of my hair, and then I'll go back up there and finish that. And it doesn't hurt that it's cooling off. I prefer to work in the cool weather, so it doesn't hurt my feelings that I'll be building that building up there when it's a little cooler. So that's okay with me too. Blackjack Guitar, have a great day, Jerry. Good luck with the dump truck. Get heat-treated chassis channel and drill and bolt it to existing chassis. Yeah, maybe. I hadn't thought of that, but I guess that's a good idea. I was planning to just weld it, but I'm planning to weld some cross members too to keep it from twisting. And I really am going to It's going to be pretty stout when I get done with it, and at least stouter than your average 1-ton dump truck. So at least that's the plan right now. Sometimes plans don't always work out, but that's the plan I have. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.